Good morning and welcome to Wendy's Way. Today we're taking another food journey in my kitchen, and I'm going to be sharing my weekly bread making routine with you. On the average, I do make bread once a week. Sometimes it'll last us more than a week depending on how much we're home. There are 3 adults and often a guest or two eating in our home, and the bread that I make makes about 4 large loaves. It's a very simple recipe. I pulled it from cooks.com. I will share the recipe with you in the description of the video, and also some photographs of in-between stages that I may not have gotten filmed. Okay, I'm going to turn my camera down and show you what I'm doing here. What you see on the counter is me in process. In my white porcelain bowl, I have 4 cups of very warm water. I even put warm water in the bowl and let it set for a little bit, dumped it out before I put the warm water in for the recipe so that the bowl would be warm. To that warm water, I added 1 cup plus 1/3 cup of white sugar. And I added 3 heaping tablespoons, not teaspoons, but tablespoons of dry yeast. I buy the yeast packet that I keep in the freezer rather than using the individual envelopes. I do buy a cake of yeast because I use it in that proportion. I'm not sure how well you can see it on camera, but it's been proofing for quite some time, probably 10 or 15 minutes. Oh, there you go. You can see I had quite a bubble going there. Okay, and once it is proofed, you put the very warm water, the sugar, and the yeast in the bowl. I use a whisk to make sure that it's all blended together so that it proofs, that there aren't any yeast granules sitting on the top of the water. And once that is proofed, I will add 1 stick or 1/2 cup of melted butter. And you can make it a variety of ways. The total flour required is 6 cups. And I put it in half at one time. I put in 6 cups at the beginning, blend it together, and then I put in most of the remaining 6 cups, but I hold back some for sprinkling on the counter and working in while I'm kneading the dough. Into the 1 tub with 6 cups, I have added 3 teaspoons of pink Himalayan salt. You can use regular table salt, sea salt, whatever kind of salt you like. We like the pink Himalayan. It has great flavor, and we order it in bulk through Amazon. So I separate out my flour ahead of time just to make it more convenient. And naturally, I use a Rata tool for almost every single thing I do in the kitchen. This is the Rata ice cream scoop. With the black stainless steel resin handle is this one here. Your item number is W237. If you prefer the shiny aluminum, brushed aluminum molded handle, the item number is R137. And I'll also put that information in the description on this video, along with the link where you can shop the Rata Kitchen Store under Wendy's Way and find everything you just might need. Okay, here we go. Let's throw it together. We already have our proofed yeast, water, sugar combination. Now I'm simply going to add the 1/2 cup of butter. And it may look like overkill right now that I'm using this ice cream scoop, but once we get the majority of this flour in there, you'll understand that it does require some elbow grease. Okay, I believe this is the flour container that has the salt. Doesn't matter, it's all going to end up in there anyway. But I just go ahead and add the first 6 cups of flour. It doesn't matter, by experience, I guess, it doesn't matter whether you use an old porcelain bowl like I have here, or a plastic bowl, or a glass bowl, metal spoon, wooden spoon. You know, it doesn't seem to affect the yeast or anything about the rise of the bread or the flour. I've used all the above. I've used stand mixers to some degree when I used to make a lot of like Amish friendship bread. I used to make a dozen, 2 dozen loaves at a time when I was actively selling to a welding shop. But now I simply make homemade bread or fruit and nut bread when we feel like it for the house, when we have bananas that have gone too ripe, or anything I want to use up, because one of the things I dislike most is wasting food. Okay, I'm going to start adding the rest of this flour a bit at a time. Likely boring watching me stir, listening to me talk. There's only about so much you can say about bread. This bread recipe is for white bread. The recipe that I downloaded from cooks.com simply said it was for white bread. Today I'm using a combination of flours. I'm using half all-purpose white flour and half whole wheat flour. And I put 3 cups of each in each one of my bowls and mixed it together with a whisk. You know, my grandma used to use a sifter, but I don't have one. And a whisk works pretty well. I've made this recipe with all wheat flour, 100% wheat flour instead of white flour. And my loaves then are small and rather dry. Even if I add extra moisture, that wheat flour just, it doesn't seem to react as well with the yeast, and it doesn't get as big, and it just doesn't stay as moist. So today, honestly, this is the first time I've done a combination of the 2, half and half. So you'll get to see, along with me, how it turned out. I think I'm just about to the point where the rest of our flour is going to be for the table and worked in while we need. This is a project that it seems so time consuming, but you know, I haven't purchased bread at the store in probably 4 to 6 months, and if I do this once every week, week and a half, it's no big thing because I'm home. You know, I enjoy working in the kitchen. It's one of my things. One of my goals in life is to emulate my grandmother. Her name was Irma Nadine Shook Smith. Irma Smith. She was, both my grandmothers were beautiful ladies. Amazing ladies. And they were both excellent cooks. Grandma Smith was also an amazing housekeeper, and she was school teacher before she married my grandpa, which was one of very few employment opportunities at the time for young women, not during wartime. And as most women then, once she got married, she stopped working outside the home and raised children and farmed with my grandpa. Okay. So I desire to emulate Nadine because she was a woman worth emulating. I guess is how I would put it. She had strong faith in the Lord. She had strong convictions. And, okay. Once I have scooped all the dough onto the floured counter to knead, then I spray the bowl, the inside of the bowl, with cooking spray. I do that because I am going to put the dough back in the bowl after I have kneaded it for it to rise. Now, it may seem odd that I'm wearing gloves. I mean, I'm just cooking for us, cooking in my own kitchen, but I started wearing gloves last summer when I was working with hot peppers. And, you know, if I ever decided to cook liver for supper, which I love to eat, but I hate to handle because the texture is just disgusting. And once I started wearing gloves for most chores, I realized that for kitchen chores, gloves just make it so much easier. And for kneading dough, it works really well because the dough doesn't seem to stick to these vinyl gloves nearly as bad as it sticks to my hands. So that's why I'm wearing gloves. And they're not latex, they are vinyl. I need an extra large glove because of the size of my hands. And that's what I found the last time I was shopping. I am an Amazon Prime shopper. I know a lot of people don't care for Amazon. A lot of people like me are addicted to Amazon. Whoa, there goes my phone. My kitchen island is on wheels. And I jiggled it a little too much. My phone wanted to tip over. Okay, basically, what I'm going to do now, I keep kneading, carefully so I don't knock my phone over. I will keep kneading this dough until it is a bit more elastic than it is right now, which means when I push down on it, it draws back. And you can see it is drawing back somewhat, but not as much as I would like it to. So I'm going to keep after this. I'm going to put it in the bowl. After I'm done kneading, let it rest for an hour. Then I will punch it down, as they say, because after an hour it'll be about twice as big as when I put it in there. It'll be full of air. I'm going to punch it down. I'm going to pour it out of the bowl. It'll be a nice elastic dough. Pour it out of the bowl. Separate it into 4 even pieces. I do that with a scraper or pastry knife, whatever you'd like to call it. And then I spread it out with my hands a bit and roll it up almost like a jelly roll into the size of loaf for my pans. I just use a standard bread pan, large bread pan, loaf pan. After I put it in the loaf pans, I will, I cover it with a tea towel. I sit it on the top of my oven, both when it's in the bowl rising and when it's in the loaf pans rising, because it's just a little warmer than any place else in the kitchen. It just needs a little heat. You know, I'll turn that cooktop light on so it gets just a wee bit of heat. Anyhow, after it rises in the pans for 45 minutes, then I'll put it in the oven, bake it at 350 for 30 minutes. I'm going to end this video now, and I'll put our finished photographs, etc. in the comments. And as many links as I can remember in the details. I'm a little shiny. Imagine that. Kneading bread dough. A little cardio. Okay. I want to thank you all so much for spending a little more time at Wendy's Way. We sincerely appreciate it. We know your time is valuable. If you enjoy these videos, would you please share them on your social media? Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click the notification button. The more you like my videos on YouTube, the more people can find them and subscribe and keep us rolling. I hope you have a beautiful day. May God bless you now and always. Amen.